The moment I found out Sasha had been turning down every guy who asked her out for 2 years was the moment her older brother got 3 drinks into a wedding reception and forgot I was standing right next to him. But I'm getting ahead of myself. The wedding was for our mutual friend Donovan, who had somehow convinced a woman named Claire to marry him despite the fact that he still owned a futon at 31. It was a Saturday in late September, the kind of day where the air smells like wood smoke and the light turns everything amber around 4 o'clock. The venue was a restored barn outside Asheville, North Carolina, which sounds more rustic than it was. There were chandeliers. There were past appetizers on little slate boards. There was a signature cocktail with a name that involved a pun about love and bourbon that I have already blocked from memory. I had been Donovan's college roommate. Sasha had been his childhood neighbor. That was how we met at his birthday 5 years ago, when I showed up with a 12-pack and she showed up with an actual homemade cake, and I spent the rest of the night pretending to care about the conversation I was in while watching her laugh at something across the room. 5 years. That was how long this had been happening. I adjusted my tie in the barn bathroom mirror and told myself to act normal. I was good at normal. I had a whole system. Be useful, be funny, don't stare, don't say the thing you're actually thinking. Drive home at a reasonable hour and be proud of yourself for being such a functional person. It was a very bad system, but I had been committed to it for a long time. The ceremony was short and genuine. Claire cried during her vows. Donovan held it together for about 40 seconds and then completely didn't. The people around me laughed in that warm, relieved way people do when a groom cries, like it gives everyone permission to feel something. Sasha was 2 rows ahead of me. She was wearing this dark green dress, the kind of green that looks like the inside of an old library. Her hair was down. She was the only person in the room not holding a phone up when Claire walked in. I looked at the altar instead. That was the system. The reception started the way receptions do, which is to say, with a 20-minute window where everyone stands around the bar pretending they know what to do with themselves. I got a drink, found Donovan's cousin Marcus, and spent a while learning more about commercial refrigeration than I had previously known was possible. Sasha found me around the salad course. She sat down in the empty chair at my left, stole a dinner roll off my plate before I had touched it, and said, "You look exhausted." "I'm not. You've been talking to someone about refrigerators for 30 minutes. How do you know that? You had the face." "I don't have a face." "You have a face," she said. "It's the one where you're being very polite while internally reading the emergency exits." I could not argue with that. I reached for another roll. "How do you always do that?" "Know things? Know things about me specifically?" She shrugged, tore a piece off the roll, and said, "Practice like it was obvious. Like 5 years of paying attention to each other was just a hobby." That was the thing about Sasha. She had this way of saying the thing closest to the truth and then immediately not following it anywhere. We sat together through dinner. She told me about a problem with her landlord and a mildew situation in her bathroom that had somehow become a philosophical dispute about responsibility. I told her about a work project that had been slowly eating my will to live for 6 weeks. She laughed in the right places and looked genuinely annoyed on my behalf and the others, and at some point her elbow was just resting on the table next to mine and neither of us moved. When the DJ started setting up, she leaned over and said, 3 songs. Then we find a table near the back and pretend we're antisocial." "Agreed. If Donovan tries to get us on the floor for the group dances, we're getting more drinks." "Exactly." She clinked her glass against mine without looking up. "See, you get it." I did. I always did. That was the whole problem. Her brother Theo found us about an hour into the reception. Theo was 35, loud in the good way, and had the specific energy of a man who had been happy all day and was now becoming enthusiastic about it. He had a drink in each hand when he walked up, redistributed one to a passing groomsman, and clapped me on the shoulder like we had survived something together. "My 2 favorite people at this whole wedding," he said. "Actually, no. 3rd. Claire is remarkable." "High praise," Sasha said. "She planned seating charts. That alone." He shook his head with deep respect. He pulled up a chair, sat down backward on it, and looked between us. "You 2 look very married right now." "We're sitting at a table," I said. "At a wedding." "Looking like that." He gestured loosely at the space between us. "Like what?" Sasha asked. "Comfortable," he said. "Like you've already had the argument about the thermostat." "There's no argument," I said. She's wrong about the thermostat. Sasha pointed at me. 68 degrees is not a sleeping temperature. It's the correct sleeping temperature. It's a storage unit. Theo laughed hard enough that someone at the next table looked over. See, he said, catching his breath. That's what I'm talking about. We moved on. Donovan gave a toast. Claire's maid of honor gave one that was funnier and got more applause, which Donovan seemed genuinely delighted by. There was cake. I danced for the 3 agreed-upon songs and then defected to the outer edge of the room with Sasha, where we stood near the windows watching the dance floor with the comfortable distance of people who have made a mutual decision. She was holding a glass with just ice in it. She kept tilting it back and forth. You good? I asked. Yeah. She said it the way people do when they mean mostly. Just tired. Long week. You worked Saturday again. She looked at me sideways. How did you know that? You texted me at 11 on Saturday night to tell me you hated occupational therapy as a concept. I love occupational therapy as a concept. Your words. She laughed quietly. Okay, Saturday was bad, but I'm good. She tilted the ice again. I'm glad I came. Yeah, Donovan looks happy. He does. You think it'll last? I watched him on the dance floor, trying to spin Claire, mostly just making her laugh. Yeah, I said. I think those two are going to be fine. Sasha nodded slowly like I had confirmed something she was already thinking. That was when Theo reappeared. He came from the direction of the bar, which explained a few things. He dropped back into a chair near us and exhaled like he had been holding his breath since dinner. Okay, he said to no one in particular. I have to say something or it's going to kill me. That's rarely a good opening, I said. It is in this case. He pointed at me, then at Sasha, then somewhere between us. I just ran into a guy named Brett at the bar. You know Brett? Sasha's expression shifted. Just slightly. He went to grad school with Donovan. Right. He was asking about you. Theo said this to Sasha, asking if you were seeing anyone. Theo. And I told him what I always tell people. He leaned back in his chair, which is that my sister has turned down every guy who's tried to get close to her for 2 solid years. The room did not go quiet. The DJ was playing something with a lot of bass. Donovan's grandmother was being walked to the coat check. 2 bridesmaids were taking a photo near the flower wall. None of it stopped. But something in my chest did. I'm standing right here, Sasha said. I know. Theo pointed at me. That's why I said it. Because I've been waiting for one of you to say it first, and I'm tired. You're drunk. I'm honest. He leaned forward. Which are not the same thing, and also not mutually exclusive. He looked at me. She compares everyone to you. You know that, right? Every time I asked her about someone she went on a date with, it's the same thing. He wasn't as easy to talk to. He didn't get it the way. I keep waiting for her to finish the sentence, and she never does because there's only one ending. Sasha had gone very still. I did not know what to do with my hands, so I put them in my jacket pockets and concentrated on the tablecloth. Theo, she said. Her voice was quiet and controlled in the way that meant the opposite of controlled. I love you, he said, not unkindly, but someone had to. He stood up, grabbed his drink, and walked toward the dance floor without looking back. For a few seconds, we just stood there. The DJ transitioned to something slower. A few more couples moved to the floor. Somewhere behind us, a woman said something about the cake being better than expected. I looked at Sasha. She was looking at the window. Her reflection looked the way I felt, which was like someone had quietly moved all the furniture in a room she thought she knew. He's had a lot to drink, she said. He seemed pretty clear. She turned to look at me then. I could not fully read her expression, which was unusual, because I could almost always read her expression. He says things, she said. He's the kind of person who, Sasha. I said it evenly. Was he wrong? She didn't answer right away. Outside the barn windows, the parking lot lights were yellow and still. A couple was taking photos near a tree out there, the photographer moving around them with a long lens. Then she said, no. One word. The room kept going around it. I let out a breath and looked at the ceiling for a second. There were Edison bulbs strung up there, the long amber kind that everyone uses now because they make everything look like a memory. Why didn't you say anything? I asked. I kept my voice even. This was not the moment for anything else. She exhaled slowly. Because you are the thing I didn't want to mess up. She said it plainly, matter of fact. Like she had thought about this sentence for a long time and had arrived at the simplest version. Everything else I've risked, I knew I could recover from. This felt different. This being me. This being you. She finally looked at me fully. You show up, Ryan. Not in the dramatic way. In the actual way. When my car got towed last February and I called you at 7 in the morning, you drove 40 minutes without making it a thing. When I had that awful week after my mom's surgery, you just came over with groceries and we watched 3 episodes of that documentary series I'd already seen. You didn't ask what I needed, you just knew. I remembered that week. I had brought the wrong kind of pasta, and she had laughed at me about it for 20 minutes, and it was one of the better evenings I could remember. Don't say that's just what friends do, she said. Because I've had friends, and that is not what they all do. I closed my mouth. She folded her arms, then dropped them again. When I went on dates, I kept waiting to feel the version of easy that I feel around you, and I kept not finding it. And eventually I realized that was the problem. I'd already calibrated to something I couldn't replicate. My heart was moving at a pace it had no business moving at during a barn wedding reception. I did the same thing, I said. Not the dating part, but I looked for the right word. I kept telling myself being close to you was enough. I turned it into this thing I was proud of. Like I was so evolved for not needing to say anything. She gave a small, dry laugh. Very noble. Incredibly noble. I looked at her. Also completely wrong. We've both been very wrong, she said. For a long time. Longer than I want to admit at someone else's wedding. That made both of us exhale, which helped. The tension did not disappear, but it shifted, became something more possible to stand inside. I turned to face her more directly. Can I say something without you telling me I'm being dramatic? She looked at me. Historically, when you preface something like that, you're about to be a little dramatic. Noted. I steadied myself. You're not someone I've been waiting around for while pretending not to care. That's not what this is. Genuinely, the last 5 years mattered. Every version of what we've been to each other has mattered. I need you to know that before anything else. She nodded once, listening. But I also know exactly what Theo meant, I said. Because I've done the same thing. Every time someone asked me why I was still single, I had a reason. Work, timing, not meeting the right person, and all of it was true. But underneath it was also the fact that I'd already found the person I wanted to talk to at the end of the day, and I'd convinced myself that was enough. Sasha looked at me for a long moment. Something in her face had shifted. The guardedness was still there, but it had moved sideways slightly, like a door not fully open but no longer braced shut. Right in the comments, she said quietly, almost to herself. I frowned. What? She shook her head, half smiling. Nothing. Something I say sometimes. She looked at me. I'm scared, she said, not apologetically, just as a fact. I want you to know that because I think you deserve honesty more than you deserve me being smooth about this. I'm also scared, I said. You don't seem it, Sasha. I looked at her steadily. I have been scared of this conversation for approximately 4 years. I am holding it together through sheer force of jacket. That got a real laugh, the kind that made her look away for a second before she looked back. Okay, she said. So we're both scared. Both scared. Both apparently ridiculous about it. Both at someone else's wedding. Donovan is going to be absolutely insufferable if he finds out. He's going to find out, she said. Theo has no regulation. I smiled. Yeah, she was smiling now too, but underneath it there was still the same careful look. Like she was measuring the distance between where we were standing and wherever we might go, calculating what it would cost to step. I made the decision then, not impulsively, deliberately. I want to take you out, I said. Actually out, not grocery runs, or watching things on your couch, or showing up when you need help and pretending I'm in the neighborhood. A real date, on purpose, where both of us know what it is going in. She searched my face. You've thought about this. I've thought about this for 4 years, I said. I think I can be direct about it. That landed somewhere. I saw it happen. She said, okay. Okay, yes, okay. She tilted her head. Was that not clear enough? I just wanted to make sure we were talking about the same okay. We are talking about the same okay, Ryan. I let out a breath. My shoulders dropped about an inch. For a moment, neither of us said anything. The DJ had shifted into something upbeat and half the dance floor was back in motion. Through the barn windows, the couple outside had finished their photos. The photographer was packing up. The tree was just a tree again. So, Sasha said, so, we should probably go find Theo and tell him he was right before his head actually explodes, or we let him wonder for a while. As payment. She considered this. Half the evening. Then we tell him. That's fair. She reached over without looking and straightened the corner of my jacket lapel. The exact same gesture as always. The one she made without thinking. Except that this time, when she finished, she didn't immediately move her hand away. She left it there for a second, her fingers against the fabric. Then she looked up at me and said, "Come on," and started walking toward the dance floor. I followed, obviously. Theo spotted us from about 15 feet away. His expression went through several stages in rapid succession, ending somewhere between vindicated and emotional. He pointed at both of us and then pressed both hands to his chest like he needed to keep something in. "Don't," Sasha said as we walked past him. I said nothing. "You're doing an enormous amount with your face." "That is just my face." "Theo." He held up one hand in surrender, smiled at the ceiling, and turned back to the dance floor. We stood at the edge of the crowd for a moment. The psalm was something I vaguely recognized, the kind of mid-tempo thing that works for both dancing and swaying if you're not sure what you're doing. Sasha was watching the floor. "For the record," I said, "I am not a good dancer." "I know," she said. "I've seen you try. And you still want to." I did not say anything about dancing. She looked at me sideways. I said, "Come on." "You interpreted the rest. That seems unfair." "It is deeply unfair." She was smiling now, fully. The real one, not the party version, not the carefully managed one. "Just her. Dance with me anyway." We did. We were both bad at it. She stepped on my foot once and apologized with the same energy as someone who had bumped into a stranger, which is to say, minimally. I lost the rhythm twice during a tempo change, and she noticed both times. We were surrounded by people who were either very good or very committed to looking like they were having fun, and we fell somewhere in the middle, and it did not matter at all. At one point, she said, against the noise, "I really did compare everyone to you." I know. It wasn't fair to them. Probably not. It also wasn't something I could stop. I looked down at her. "I know that too." She nodded, like we had confirmed a thing we both already understood. 2 months later, Donovan called me to complain about a disagreement he and Claire were having about throw pillows, which felt like a very good sign for the marriage. Partway through the call, he paused and said, "I heard about you and Sasha. Theo can't keep anything to himself." "I'm glad he can't." He paused. "I always thought you two were doing that thing where you're both waiting for the right moment, and somehow it never comes. It makes me very happy that it did. At your wedding. At my wedding. I'm going to tell that story forever. Please don't." He already had, of course. He told it at Sasha's birthday dinner 2 months later, in the version where he claimed he had orchestrated the seating arrangement specifically to force the issue. Claire rolled her eyes across the table at me with the energy of someone who loved her husband very much and was also entirely aware of who he was. Sasha and I had been on 6 real dates by then. Not just coffee or runs to the hardware store or the kind of Saturday afternoon where you start helping someone move a bookshelf and end up watching a movie on their couch until midnight. Actual intentional dates where we both knew what we were walking into. They felt different and the same at once. The ease was still there, the same ease that had always been there. But now there was nothing to pretend about underneath it, no door to stand carefully away from. There was one evening, maybe 5 weeks in, when we were in my kitchen and I burned the garlic. And she stood there laughing while I tried to save it. And at some point I looked up from the pan and she was just watching me with this expression I did not have a word for. Warm and quiet and entirely unhidden. "What?" I asked. "Nothing," she said. "I just liked this. The disaster cooking, the all of it." I put the spatula down and looked at her. "Yeah," I said. "Me too." She didn't look away, and neither did I. And for the first time in 5 years, the kitchen felt exactly the right size.